Welcome to Pratidwani, where we try to humanize science. I'm your host, GV Pawan Kumar. It's absolute delight and pleasure to introduce you to my guest on this particular episode, Professor Satish Patil. Satish serves as a professor at the very well-known Solid State and Structural Chemistry Unit at the Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru, and he has held this position for quite some time. And recently, he has also finished his chairmanship or the chairperson position at this outstanding unit, which is a very integral part of the material science and also chemistry research in India, and has given us so many interesting pieces of research and also very interesting people. His research group, which is usually called as the Organic Electronics Research Group, focuses on molecular electronics, which is itself a fascinating area. And Satish and his research group look into the design, synthesis, and functional aspects of conjugated polymers and oligomers for various different applications, including organic electronics, photovoltaics, light emitting diodes, field effective transistors, etc., etc. Their efforts currently also is to look into fascinating questions related to thermally activated delayed fluorescence, which is a very interesting research area, and also singlet fusion, and also polarons, which Satish is an expert, and he also has been doing some very fascinating work. Very beautifully, his research work blends uh, uh, chemistry, physics, materials engineering towards the goal of achieving energy sustainability and all interesting fundamental questions also related to energy problem. And of course, he leads a very large team, has been mentor to so many students. And whenever I have met Satish, I have always benefited in interacting with him. With this very brief introduction, I welcome Satish to Pratitwari.
You. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pawan. I must say that you are doing wonderful job. I think very often in India, you see that we have been criticized that we don't really record things very properly. So perhaps our next generation of scientists look at these videos and they will say though how we practice science. I think these are the wonderful initiatives. I think in overall it will help Indian ecosystem how people are thinking at different disciplines, and you have done wonderful job of bringing people from very different background. When I have been following your this podcast, people coming from literature, people coming from not only science and arts. I think it's a sort of a platform where we can interface people with the different professions. I think thank you very much for having me here, and I will wonderful to chat with you also and seeing you. Yeah,
Absolutely, my pleasure. Absolutely, my pleasure. One of the crucial things what you mentioned is the documentation.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we all actually realize that's such an important part of
Yes,
all things what we have to do,
yes, yes.
and this is just a small effort in that way.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Satish, we're going to get started with your origins. Please give us a brief overview of
Yeah.
where were you actually born and what was your background in basic education.
Yeah. So I was born in at the, in Karnataka. My village where I was born is in Karnataka, but it's at the border of Maharashtra and Karnataka. So it's near Bidar and near Bhalki, to be precise, that location. And it is generally, I had also very similar upbringing as many of us in village. I went to that area is, sort of dominated by Marathi speaking people because it's the border of Maharashtra and Karnataka. So I know my mother was grown up more in Maharashtra, my father was in Karnataka. So we had sort of a mixed upbringing. I went to a Marathi medium school because in that village we had both a stream, Kannada stream as well as Marathi, and that really helped us to learn both the languages actually. Generally, I would say it was not privileged, upbringing as a child. I won't say it's very also humble because I now look at William sisters or Nelson Mandela. So I should be even complaining about. I had a very humble. background, but economically it was not very so much privileged, I would say that way. But we had everything pretty much, very safe and safeguarded childhood, because the entire village, we felt it, everybody was our elderly people, was very well connected community. I think when you are growing as a child, you feel that itself, I feel it very privileged when I see now how children have been grown up in big towns, and they seems to be very, sometimes they feel very lonely. So we never had that. I think that itself I consider as a blessing. Forget about the other economical part. Generally that was good. I think in schooling was good, like we were five siblings, including me, my two sisters, and two brothers. I was the youngest child in the family. In general, the eldest one, sort of the story goes in family like this, because he was bright kid and he went to a BSc agriculture. So where he somehow wanted to BSc science, but somehow parents wanted, or in generally society in that part of the world, because everybody sort of felt it, agriculture stream is good for him, and somehow he didn't like it, and he just disappeared from college. So that was a big setback for a family. And eventually my other siblings, like my sisters and brothers, somehow they did not get the education which they deserve for. Then they again invested a lot more energy in me, saying, because somehow my father felt it, education is the only way we can sort of win all the problems, whatever the family has it. So they put a lot of again back energy in me. That way, I would say, there was a anxiety when I was growing, okay, because that sort of a setback in a family put us me on a spot. Like while growing, you see stories being heard, sort of what happens now with the family. The elder one has did not do very well, but actually he was very bright. He was very good kid, but I think he did not get the support system what we are supposed to get it at that time. So that way it put me on spot, actually, saying that how I'm going to really handle this pressure, family pressure from all the. So I think I somehow managed to come out of all that chaotic background. But now, when I look back my life journey, I would say that it wasn't that bad, actually. Okay, so there was a sort of pressure to do well and come out of all these things and help family, support family, actually, to bring back them again on the track. So that support I felt since from my childhood. That was, I feel it was too early for a child to feel that pressure, actually.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Uh, it's also very fascinating to know. For example, younger people would be surprised to know that there can be more than two children in a family.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Yes.
In fact,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
something which was very normal even a generation earlier
Yes. Yes.
to
Yes.
the
Yes.
current one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it also means that you probably would have a greater understanding of even at a basic level, understanding fellow human beings in that
Yes.
sense.
Yes, that's
That way.
wonderful. I think that is what I said. That was a blessing, actually, to
Mm,
have that kind of a childhood, where you see that but there's a sort of people were in and around. People were so nice. Everybody
mm,
wanted to help everyone, and they were wonderful. Like you can go for you seek help, and as a child, you somehow feel very safe in growing in that kind of environment. Of course, these other problems you can manage, but as a child, I felt it like that is what I keep telling my children also. I had a more privileged background than
right.
you guys because of this. Also, many people around, actually, right? And yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. It's such an important point
yeah,
what you mentioned.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, so it also means that growing up in such an environment, because of the fact that such kind of exposure and upbringing
Yeah.
also gives you something related to the schooling, which actually is more open than probably very specific and close. Could you
Yes.
please tell us a little bit about your
Schooling
schooling?
was, I would say, it's as I mentioned, Marathi medium government school. Actually, we had like very dedicated teachers. So somehow they feel teaching as a profession. They took it very serious. in their own capacity, right? Whatever they had, like, given the resources, they were trying very best what to do. But I think we had sometime a very good math teacher. For example, when I entered in high school, we had a wonderful mathematics teacher. He all came from some nowhere, and he started teaching us a math. So that was very, very good. And then generally, most of the education was done in Marathi. Somehow English was somehow was not. I was not exposed to, let's say, English as a language until, let's say, plus one, when I entered in a PUC, pre-university college in Karnataka. You see that we had, like, after
Yeah.
school, you go to PUC, right? With this pre-university. So there I had, like, better teacher, I would say, surprisingly very good actually teacher. So this is in Bhalki, this is Channabasheshwara College. It's called
College.
C College.
Mm-hmm.
There, that college is somehow surprisingly, when I entered, I went to science stream. So, like, since, like, my father was always had this dream, so children should go in a science education. So I went to a science college there. There, surprisingly, I felt it somehow the teachers were really, really wonderfully good teacher. We were, we used to go take this Karnataka state bus. We will go
Mm-hmm.
up and down. We go morning, early morning, we come back in the evening again home. So it was a 20-kilometer away from home. But while that college, I felt it, that college was that uniquely placed, because what happened is all the teachers, their children somehow was studying in that college during my batch. So the principal's daughter was studying in my batch, and the physics teacher, and they somehow felt it is, like, for example, the physics teacher was giving a tuition, and it's a free tuition. You just go to his house. His daughter was in the same class, and early morning this person will come. I still vaguely remember his wonderfully writing on the board, actually at his home, from one end to the other end, and he will teach us, free. He just say, okay, you go and sit there. And in his house, when we go and sit in a corner somewhere, we always felt it somehow. We were going from village, and those kids are smart. They could speak, they could interact, and we could not really interact so much. So we were sort of shying away from talking with people. But I had a quiet education by sitting in. I just enjoyed it actually. Sitting in the corner, those teachers were giving all kinds of knowledge what you really want to learn actually.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very, very important in PUC, pre-university college. That is from village to that college. From there, I never turned back actually. So that was very good. But we could not really do this CET exam, Karnataka CET, because again you need special coaching, and always this money was an issue. I would must say that actually. We said, okay, you clear plus two, now you go to the BSc. Then I entered in Maharashtra. There I entered in Bachelor of Science in just BSc, in a Shahu College. That is a Latur pattern, they call it,
Latur.
actually, Latur. There I had somehow, there was they felt it somehow I have to take this zoology and some other botany subject. Fishery science and chemistry was one of the major subject. Still, I regret that. I think I should have
Mm-hmm.
taken that, more like a physics, mathematics, and chemistry.
Chemistry.
That
Yeah.
is, because now I do so much physics actually, and some a great love and intuition for physics. But they felt it. They were not getting many children or students in that stream. So somehow they felt it. Okay, your admission is in this stream, and they decided everything actually. Then chemistry, I fell in love with chemistry from there onwards. I also, it gave me a lot of time to focus on chemistry.
Mhm.
So I kept on focusing on chemistry, and then I got a very good. There, I think I did extraordinarily well in that college. There, from there onwards, I went to Aurangabad, where again traditionally you see that MSc organic chemistry. But what happened is there was immediately wanted to go for a job and support my family. That was my prime objective that time, actually, to be honest with you, not to go for PhD, not to go for, like, become a scientist. So that where I think but everybody felt that MSc organic chemistry is very, very important, because you get a job in pharmaceutical, as I know, industries. So that is where I got dragged in more in organic chemistry. So this is sort of my upbringing in education, where up to MSc, but it just when I was in MSc second year, there's one event triggered. there was a one of our very good teacher, inorganic chemistry teacher. He was super animated, and they were felicitating him. They conducted a conference and they invited people from all over the place, Pune University, their friends, they came. And that event really triggered. A few scientists from NCL also came,
Mhm.
actually, to felicitate him. And they gave a talk. And that is where I felt it now. Now, look, I don't think so. I should do this pharmaceutical job and I should, but because NCL can provide that platform, actually. So, that is where I think I came back I traveled to Pune and joined NCL as a project assistant. So that time we used to like get, our salaries was 5,000 rupees. I remember actually entering
This
in.
was when year
This was
roughly.
the year in 98 to 2000.
Wow, nice,
Two
nice.
years, two
Yeah.
years actually. I was there for a long time. And then, somehow it is in my nature, or perhaps I demand more than what sort of, it's always, I'm not very happy in terms of academics. When I don't settle immediately saying,
Mhm.
okay, no, now in NCL, I felt it now is enough. And it's my time to, go somewhere else. And I was very fortunate to go to Germany for my PhD.
We'll come to that
We
particular
come to
point.
that part.
Yeah,
Yes.
because before that, I would want to,
Uh,
because this is also a very interesting journey, Satish,
mm.
because uh, without the drive, it would be not possible
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for what you've been doing, and
Ex-
also it means that it's not only yesterday that you just realized
Yes,
that
yes.
it's
No,
a
no, no.
it's a lifelong drive. I can
Yes,
see
yes,
that it
yes,
actually reflects in a lot of stuff what you've been doing over the years.
yes,
It also means that that there is some kind of an internal motivation to really go
yes.
forward.
Yeah, yeah.
It also means that you in the passing actually mentioned, even in my notes I looked at, that you had an inclination to go towards chemistry
Yeah,
as you were progressing
sure.
in your career. It also means that you have kind of made a very interesting vision for your own career.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, I ask this because this is a persistent question, not just only among young
Mm.
students, even people who actually mature to, let's say, a person like a postdoc or even a faculty member who is
Yeah,
starting.
yeah.
This is something which is always kind of not very clear for many
Yeah, yeah.
people. But
Yes.
in your case, you already had that kind of overview of at least what you want to do.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
where did you get that clarity? Is there anything which is part of your own upbringing or education or your kind of philosophical thought which actually took you towards chemistry and furthermore?
Yeah, okay. So that's very important. As I mentioned, because I think that I main motivation for taking chemistry as a stream somehow, if I in a the subject, it fascinated me as a subject. It was very, very exciting in terms of, like, if I could read, let's say, some of the concept in physical chemistry, right? They were sort of combination of bit of a physics, bit of a math, and that somehow also fascinated me towards physical chemistry more during that time. But eventually I did not really taken physical chemistry as a mainstream. But it was a I would say, it has the subject has such a rich subject, right? It has
Absolutely.
it has sort of, if you are trying to do like, now I keep saying that the materials, are the key driver for any technology. Like, if you look at now in today's world, actually, right, the chemistry is the such a key subject. It can interface to, it's a very central subject
Central,
for
yeah.
entire material science, what we are practicing today. So that time it was more like somehow this love towards chemistry was, perhaps I had some good teachers also in chemistry, because we had a very good teachers in BSc also. The way they used to teach, the ways to communicate the science to us also was also one of the, always, because teacher is plays a very important role,
Important role, yeah. True.
how you drive towards the subject. So I think we had very, very good teacher in BSc also in chemistry. So they somehow taught the subject in such a manner that they could connect
Mm.
us, right? Actually, so that fascinated me towards chemistry. I think more. I would say the credit goes more to the teacher rather
Teachers.
than me. Yeah.
Fascinating, fascinating. Were you already thinking about some kind of areas within the chemistry which you like? You correctly mentioned that physical chemistry is truly a remarkable kind of
Yeah.
a field,
Yes.
because even I've got kind of partially exposed when I was even doing my PhD.
Sure, sure.
If you are doing a PhD in JNCSR, there is no
Yeah.
way you will not get
You can't stay away from chemistry.
chemistry. But it was an eye opener, because even because my background completely was in
Yeah.
physics, but more so from atomic molecular optical
Yes.
physics and other things. But I also felt that that is the remarkable aspect of physical chemistry,
Yeah.
because if you look at all the people chemists whom I have generally discussed on Pratidwani, majority of them are physical chemistry
Physical
people.
chemist.
That is because I also can understand some of the work
Yes.
what they
Subject. The
do.
subject.
But I
Subject.
also felt, and historically speaking, physical chemistry has been one of the great ways to really get very deep insights into any physical system.
Sure.
In
True.
fact, including, let's say, quantum mechanics and other
Yeah. Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
There
That's
are so
one.
many of the things. What do you were you already kind of inclined right at the formative years, or this happened gradually as you progressed and worked in
It
various different
happens.
fields?
Okay. So now I'll take you a little bit towards my higher education,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
how
yeah.
that triggered me more towards physical chemistry because I was like, well, in a NCL Pune, I was working with this Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, actually. So he was a physicist by training. He was a scientist there. He was a physicist. And then I think that's my first exposure to conducting polymer is thanks to Dr. Radhakrishnan. So basically, I worked in his laboratory in NCL Pune, but his approach was very different. So he would like take a simple, very simple, like, if a conducting polymer, and he will look into more like it towards properties, actually, right?
Mm.
The physics aspect of these
Aspect
conducting
of
polymer.
conducting.
So that is where I think I got fascinated towards more like, again, how to interface bit up a material synthesis, but again identify the problem in physics and work towards materials. So
Materials.
that was very nice training, I would say. Then I went to Germany for my PhD. There I was more, since I was carrying this knowledge along with me of doing bit of a more like, identify a problem in physics and do practice chemistry. So in a PhD, during PhD, I got a lot more exposure of synthesizing these polymer, this beautiful
Mm.
polymer. But again, in Germany, what happened is I got so much exposure. So it was a very big, massive project of, we were trying to make this blue laser. You are a physicist, by using organic semiconductor and making a blue laser is a very ambitious
Very challenging thing.
very
Yes, yes.
challenging.
Yeah.
And then we used to have a lot of these every 6 months meeting and project update meeting with different groups within Germany. That is where I think this lot of physicists will come. They will talk about the physics aspect. We will talk about the chemistry aspect. That,
Nice.
that exposure was very important as a student, actually. As a PhD student, you are listening to the people where what are the difficulties they were having it. And it was the big industry like Sony was involved in the project. So they were really, talking about how to implement these ideas. So that is where I think I felt it. The PhD, that exposure was very, very important. Of course, I know when I went to US for that was, if I continue talking about that, like that changed my world totally
Yeah,
because
yeah. We'll come to that.
that
That's
is
actually a
yeah,
remarkable epoch.
yeah,
I
that
will
is a
also come.
remarkable transition in my life.
Yes,
But
yeah.
these are the two events, I would say, because organic chemistry synthesis knowledge you carry and you come to NCL. I sort of joined the laboratory where the person was looking like more like physics aspect of the conducting polymer, and
Mm.
then I went to Germany. So these are the three events. Today I can,
Yes.
I'm fascinated towards Polaron. You see that I was giving
Mm.
a talk in IISc.
Yes, yes, yes,
Like,
yes, yes.
on Polaron. So that really, sort of, these events triggered in my mind how a organic chemist can also dream about doing wonderful physics of, or understand the physics of these material rather than practicing as a, physics like
Physics.
I'm not doing like very hardcore physics like the way you are doing it, or here Arindam, my friend, does in across
Yeah,
the
yeah.
street. Not like that, actually, not that level. Yeah.
Fabulous, fabulous. I also am very interested and keen to learn your experience of making this transition from Pune to Germany. It is, as you mentioned, you also wanted to explore and you wanted to really go ahead in terms of the academic career. Tell us about this transition. How did this happen? especially moving to Germany. Germany is an outstanding place, especially physical chemistry and material chemistry. It has very rich history, and also all the industries, as you mentioned, actually
Yes,
have
yes.
very very keen interest. Tell
Okay.
us a little bit about
Yeah,
your
so this
experience there.
is the sort of, when we were in NCL Pune, we see that, now also people are like, there are a large number of students are working as you are working on some projects, but you're not actually doing PhD there, actually, right?
Yeah.
So there we had sort of I did not see myself really getting converted into a PhD program over there, and I did not see a lot more opportunities. And then we were, 7 or 8 of friends. I think that time we are like a large group of people. We joined different schools in Germany for
Mhm.
PhD. So we were sort of again applying for positions. We were talking about, like, I was working on some very interesting problem in NCL Pune, where how to use polyaniline for as an anti-corrosion coating on a polymer substrate, insulating polymer substrate. Perhaps that story. And I also was worked in this polymer chemistry division, where Dr. Shivram was leading this
Mhm.
project on
Yeah.
polycarbonate synthesis. So they had a big group of projects were
Yeah.
ongoing in NCL Pune. So somehow I got exposure for these ideas there, how people are working on a traditional polymer and conducting polymer, a special class of a polymer. So I loved more conducting polymer, because conducting polymer gave me opportunity to explore physics of materials, actually.
Mhm.
Then we started applying, and one fine day we had a one computer. We used to take a turn, actually. In fact, in Dr. Radhakrishna's lab, we had one computer. We will say we come very late in the night, and we'll start writing up, these submit applications. Wherever you see open positions on, I still see that we use Hotmail or Yahoo or whatever email we had it. We started writing an email, and this is my there in a Dresden, actually. Manfred Stamm was a person who offered me first. He
Mhm.
was working on this, if I in fact look at my first paper in Germany, it was working on a polymer brushes.
Mhm.
So polymer brushes, went and worked with Manfred Stamm for 6 months. It did not really, again, somehow I did not like the subject itself,
Mhm.
what I'm going to do in that subject. We had a one Langmuir paper. Things were going very well, but I was fascinated towards more conducting polymer.
Mhm.
Since this in NCL Pune, then I have to, sort of again, moved from Dresden, where this institute where I did this polymer brushes for 6 months, to Ulrich Scherf, where he was doing traditionally conducting polymer
Mhm.
synthesis. So it's all, again, credit goes to me. Actually, I had a, love for a subject, actually. So, like, because one could have said, okay, fine, now I came to Germany, I will complete my PhD, I will work on polymer brushes. So it didn't really give me that satisfaction that I'm supposed to get as a subject wise, actually. So then I have to really pack my bag again, say, okay, fine, I'm not, thank you very much for giving all my support. I was very grateful, and those were very gracious people, very wonderful people. I had thanked them personally from my heart. I said, okay, look, my love is somewhere else for the subject. And then the other guy really, Professor Ulrich was very kind, and he offered me. And then I moved there, actually. That was in Potsdam, there where there are
Yeah.
several Max Planck Institute. I think you have visited, maybe I must have
Yeah.
visited. There are 3, 4 Max Planck institutes around.
Mhm.
So there I did lot more this polymer synthesis, like, can you make it blue light emitting diodes? I think that was my PhD thesis project, actually, that time. So how to make a blue light emitting diodes, actually. So that was the sort of journey from NCL to Germany.
Fabulous, fabulous. Uh, you mentioned about this blue region of the spectral features. It still remains one of the
Yeah,
biggest
yeah,
challenges.
yeah,
There
yeah,
have been also in the last decade, there was a Nobel Prize related
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah, yeah,
blue LED and other things. It's still actually an open
yeah,
problem
yeah, yeah.
because that spectral feature is still not very easy to
Not
achieve
easy, not
and
easy.
very critical for so many displays, etc., and other things. Uh, During this particular phase of your PhD, what was the questions you were asking, Satish? Kind
It's
of
mainly how to
brief.
make, as you mentioned, you need wide bandgap semiconductor for
Mm,
making blue light emitting diodes, and then you don't have, and how to make it stable blue light emitting diodes. That time there was no, like, people were not working on TADF.
mhm,
Okay, people were just working on how to boost the external quantum efficiency And blue is very how to get a very narrow emission actually
Mm.
polymer, because these polymers are in a one dimensional semiconductor. You get a very Gaussian broad distribution of emissions actually. So how to get a very narrow emission? Once you get LED, can you make a laser out of it? I think that was the question. That
Wonderful.
was a very, very fascinating, and it was very challenging, question to address for a material chemist. So you go back to laboratory,
Mm.
you make these semiconductors, which has a very less disorder in the backbone actually. So that is where this ladder polymer we were making it, because the ladder polymer we can bridge them, and we can sort of freeze the torsion between the phenyl ring, and that gave us some. I know. Still those polymers are really traditionally we could make it, but we never got that answer. Like for example, as you mentioned, gallium nitride is a wonderful semiconductor
Semiconductor. Yeah.
or a blue light emitting material. They got a Nobel Prize, but in
Mm.
organic we could not achieve the success of inorganic materials.
Material. Yeah.
So, but that was also fascinating. It's a very interesting scientific question for a PhD to chasing it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Added to the fact that if you want to bring in the flexibility component,
Yes, yes, yes,
yeah, I think it's still one of the best kind of candidates, if I'm
yes,
correct, right?
yes,
It's
yes, yes.
still because flexible electronics, optoelectronics is something
Yeah.
which is of very high interest. So, Satish, now that you actually are, really getting into the cutting edge
Yeah.
in terms of the stuff what you learned during your PhD, then you make a move
Mm.
to probably one of the most well-known
Yeah.
groups and
Yeah.
also one of the well-known institutions in the world related to all things electronics, including organic electronics,
Yes,
with a
yes.
very remarkable researcher called Kurt Woodle.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your experience of moving from Germany to California and everything related to that
Yes,
phase
yes.
of your life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that it's in Germany. I somehow like as in again, I was so sort of very passionate about the subject. I sort of felt it at the end of my PhD. I felt it. I don't think so. I can really live long time in Germany, because there
Mm.
was always a limitations. How do you communicate science to the people? Because language was the barrier. I think no matter what, how much you learn, but we could not really have a free flowing so much discussions at in Germany as like because I went some couple of conferences during my PhD to US, and I could see
Mhm.
that I could really talk with a lot of people actually there in US, because language was never a barrier there.
Barrier, yeah.
So then I was started applying for position. I was so fortunate. I know one fine day I got an offer from Fred Woodle,
Mhm.
and that was the game changer in my life actually. So I go to US at UCLA, where there's it's a they work together like Santa Barbara and UCLA, like all this Alan Heger's group is sort of, but I was more in Fred's group. But this is a group of people who are trying to push organic electronics as a game changer in semiconducting world actually. So there he was actually, with all due respect to physicists, because you are a physicist, you are interviewing me, he said never become pair of hand actually for a physicist.
Mm. Mm.
Actually, that was the lesson I learned in his laboratory, saying
Nice.
that you never make materials for a that is where I see my all collaborations comes now. I
Mm.
do all the science in collaboration actually with people at the moment. Even I get a lot of criticism in India also, but which is the more subject is so fascinating.
Absolutely.
We do it like purely love out of the subject. Like how do we he was more a very good knowledge of physics, and then started making materials actually, and very strict with collaboration with the physicist. Until unless we understand the project, we never collaborate with people actually.
Mm.
And never just give material and wait for data, never. That's where I think I do with my student actually at the moment. You see in IISc, we never like just collaborate with people and get the data. We just sit together, we analyze, we have hours of Zoom meeting, we understand all aspects of that subject, and then we write a complete full paper
Full
talking
paper. Yeah.
with this year and talking with this one. So I think being in his lab changed my life totally. Yeah, as a scientist actually, how do we think about this subject actually? Right, so he had like great discoveries, like he made functionalized fullerenes.
Mm.
He had
Mhm.
developed, also his undergraduate student was developed TTF, this TCNQ TTF, like charge transfer complexes. So that is where I think like totally changed my life there.
Wonderful.
Yeah, yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
So this was also probably if I'm correct, in somewhere in the mid 2000s, I think probably 2005, 6 or something like that, there was a very big meeting called Molecular Probes in
Yes,
IISc.
that, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Maybe that probably was the first time I met you. Maybe
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
there
I
is a
think we met. Yes, that
yeah,
is where
yeah.
I think Bhas introduced
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Yeah,
was a very long
yes,
time.
yes,
I was
very.
kind of in the mid of my own PhD, and probably you had just recently joined
Just
there or
join,
something.
just join.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that
yeah,
is that. And
yeah.
but you could make it impact on people right away. You could connect. Actually,
Yeah,
you are very sort of you are. I think you are sort of one of the student volunteer
yeah,
actually.
yeah. You're
Yeah,
right. You're right.
yes,
Actually,
yes,
I was a volunteer for that meeting. It
yes,
actually was an eye opener. That's when I
yes,
also, saw Fred Udall and other
yes,
people.
yes. So he was
There was
spread.
a great international kind of panel
Yes,
of researchers and
yes.
so many interesting questions. Zolta Zoos and other
Yes, yeah,
kind of
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
I think that is where I think I met you actually. Yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. So, Satish, now one of the questions I generally ask for a lot of scholars who have made back to their home, which is India, why did you come back, Satish?
ha,
That is a crucial question. Having worked in such kind of places, I'm very sure you would have also got
yes.
many other
So,
opportunities.
yeah, I had like yeah, because I would answer in a just one line. We are coming back to home actually, home because well, no matter what, the practicing science in your own country has its own happiness. I don't know how to describe in word actually, right?
True.
And I got an outstanding institute
Mm,
actually. You see, like I I never dream of like sort of I'll come back to IISc, I'll become
mm,
professor here. And once I have an offer from IISc, I don't think so. I have to had a second thought in my mind actually. So I just say let's take a bag and come back. I think that was a major sort of a driving force. You are going home
mm,
actually, and as I mentioned it to you, also it's a family.
mm,
They mentioned it to I was the first child again going for higher education. So I had somehow felt it my duties to come back and help my sister, my brother, their children, educate them, and then make them because in their own capacity they helped me throughout my life actually.
wonderful.
Then I
Wonderful.
can't be having a very life with blessed with in California running
Mm,
around. But then somehow I felt it my duty, and I think it's all like sort of destiny.
mm,
It was drove me back. This is sort of a yeah. As I mentioned it to you, first of all, wonderful institutions. Outstanding institutions was I got an offer from IISc. In addition to that, I had this family obligations also,
mm.
right? Basically, I wanted to support them to come back and to my sister's children, my brother's children. So that somehow we decided. Me and my wife, we wanted to come back and say, okay, so let's go back and support those people, and that is the biggest gift we can give it to, like educate their children.
Education.
And they all are now very happily, they got their own job, and we are very happy about that actually. That is something we did it in life actually. When I look back now, I feel it very happy about it. So now I've sort of I have like uh, that was the more main driving force to answer
Many.
your
Yeah.
question precisely actually. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. This is actually such an important drive also to help people. At the end of the day, what is the whole point, right?
Yeah,
Without
the
that,
life. Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Fantastic, fantastic. Now you come back, with these brimming ideas, with great experiences, and also very good exposure because at that particular point of time, if you're really starting a research group in India with an experience of both Europe and US,
yeah.
it is one of the great ways to really get started in terms of your research career. So, how was it actually setting up, your own group? Your ideas, your questions, what were the plans you came up with? And
Okay.
it's an important lesson for a lot of young people and
Lot
also
of young people, a
everybody.
lot of young people. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah,
See, okay,
yeah.
so I returned back. You know SSU very well,
Yes,
actually.
yeah, yeah,
You are well. Academically, you must also benefited a lot
yeah.
from
Yeah.
interacting with SSU. I find it like this is one of the academically such an outstanding place.
Mm.
So intense. We had like we were when I was in UCLA as a postdoc. Whenever I was in the elevator, the grad student will ask me, Fred is in town while giving a seminar, student seminar. They say, because they were terrified, like somehow afraid of like what questions being asked. So we had like Fraser Stoddart. Eventually, he got a Nobel Prize in
Yeah,
chemistry.
yeah.
Actually, so there was a very outstanding faculty over there. So there, I felt it like the seminars were really well conducted. Actually, people discuss. But when I come back to ISSU, it was 10 times or 100 times more than that, actually. So it was like Professor
Fabulous.
Ramashisha, Professor Biman Bachi,
Uh,
Professor P. Sharma. You see that there was in SSU, I would say, is the place where, I have not seen so far such an outstanding department with extraordinary people.
People. True.
Okay, so that sort of made sort of my life more challenging in my initial days, because I came back again at the end of the day as an organic chemist to the department.
Mm-hmm.
My training was there a little bit up in different areas. So now, so that 4 5 years initially, and in India, one of the I won't say it's a bad. I don't use word as a bad as a but ecosystem. Somehow people judge you based on your education. Like for
Mm-hmm.
example, they say, oh, you are an organic chemist. What you need is a two few moods. You start here doing it, like that is the kind of a, like it's a sister society.
Yeah.
In nobody's in the society is bad about it, but everybody's trying to help each
Yeah.
other. Here
Yeah.
also there are very good people. And then I got a, like, initially days they always tag me saying my startup grant was saying that, okay, you need two few modes. But I wanted to do device, I wanted to do physics, I wanted to do optics. Bit of like not like
Yeah.
that optics. The way you do optics is fantastically at very high level. But
Yeah.
I wanted to study light matter interactions what the
Actions. Yeah.
I was doing it. So that really took some time actually. So initially, if you look at my 5 6 years, I could not really practice organic electronics research. I
Mm-hmm.
practiced my the layer by layer drug delivery, those research problem I worked upon it. The moment I got a slightly bigger lab initially, because SSU was always cramped. You see, the
Mm-hmm.
space was an issue actually. It's a small building, and they didn't have really big laboratories, in terms of space. So but people were very, but science part is very exciting. You are going in that auditorium, you have been in that auditorium, right?
Yes, yes. Who hasn't? Any student who is in physics or chemistry related,
Then you don't complain on rest of the things,
yeah,
right? You
yeah,
just simply enjoy it,
yeah,
actually.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that
True.
was really fantastic in SSU, actually. Initially, 4 5 years, I did something else, but again, my dream was again always in organic electronics. Once I got a bigger lab, I started practicing, and as of today, I won't complain today. I got a wonderful, wonderful facility now, but I have to build myself. I think
Yeah.
that is the lesson these younger people, when if you are listening my into, they should know that it takes time. It took like, for example, I got my own device fabrication lab, let's say after 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And continuously knocking doors of different funding agency, going there, talking people, convincing people, I also want you to do this one. I also want to do this one. That always in India takes time. So that
Absolutely.
one has to. I think perhaps it is true for you as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. True, true. In
Yeah.
fact, it's so wonderfully put. In fact, it also for people who are listening and seeing, that long-term patience of
Yes.
interest, also in a deeply interested,
Yes.
which also means you are deeply committed to certain things,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that commitment is what really helps you to take things forward and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that. Fabulous, fabulous.
Yeah.
So, Satish, you and your research group
Hmm.
have actually been, working on so many fascinating problems, so many interesting questions.
Hmm.
Give us a gist about the questions what you have been asking, and not only in the recent past, but also some things which you currently are working in the lab, and yeah, you have been thinking about it. You have a very big group, very fascinating amount of work which comes out of your group. Wonderful collaborations also. So
Hmm.
give us kind of just a gist
Ah,
of the
okay.
stuff.
So yeah, you see that again the sort of ecosystem in this country is such a way that as an experimentalist, right? We sort of sometime I when I deeply thinking about alone, I'm sitting there and what science I'm doing it. Where is my science is driving? What are the deeper question I'm asking about in science? Sometimes I find it bit we spread little bit thin
Mm.
actually in terms of our questions, because we started chasing this, but at we learned so much about these materials now. So we in a process now we are asking more challenging questions. For example, as you are a physicist, you know that how do we really think about it making semiconductor with very, very high mobility, for example.
Mm.
Do you really want, like, I know I was in TIFR, on this 2 days ago, JD was hosting me,
JD, yeah.
and then I was giving a talk. Even do you really want to understand the polaron in, these
Nice.
biconjugated systems, right? So we don't have very clear cut answers for those questions. So that fascinates me. I would say that now I'm enjoying the science I'm at the peak of my career now,
Mm.
really,
Mm.
really having that, the fun part, because
Fun
now
part.
beautiful laboratory, I have wonderful student, because until now I was sort of navigating the road actually,
Mm.
right? Building lab, again I became a head of the department, I had
Department.
additional responsibility on my shoulder. So that somehow really, did not let me to settle on a one single problem, to go very deep in science. But now I have an opportunity, because I would say that when basically these bigger questions what we are asking to solve it, I don't really put myself under pressure saying that I have to really solve this problem.
Mm. Mm.
But then I don't really enjoy the science, right? So at the moment, I would say that I'm just going with the flow, and there are
Mm.
fantastic questions we are asking. For example, can you dope this semiconductor? Doping this semiconductor, what is the physics of this after doping? I think those questions are not clear.
Yeah.
Traditionally, you are a physicist, you know that silicon you can dope it with very small quantity of dopant, but in these material you can't even dope. We cannot use a similar mechanism.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
have been reading a lot about the physics part of, like, for example, Anderson localization, how
Mm.
Anderson thought about it, disorder. He called these, many of these semiconductor, when a disorder, there is a dirty semiconductor. That's a word he
Yes.
used
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. You're, yes.
So I'm very fascinated about the theory he developed for
Mm.
these disorder semiconductor. And then those ideas will push me to drive designing wonderful materials in the laboratory.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, so that is the way I would put my science at the moment. And then talking with physicists, like talking with a lot more, spectroscopists, for example. JD
Mm.
has been wonderful
Yeah.
collaborator for me, actually. So there are, like, then I collaborate all over the place, because I've been telling my student, right, is saying, we write the paper, we make a sensible contribution in science. We
Mm.
never, at this stage of my career, I don't think so I should be really chasing,
Paper.
papers. I
Yeah.
would be chasing sort of, my approach is problem solving approach.
Mm. Mm.
I don't know where it is going to take me eventually, but the approach has been like, how do I solve problem, and paper and patent, those become byproduct actually. So that is the way I'm looking at the science at the moment.
Beautifully put. Beautiful. Such an important kind of overview,
Yeah,
because that is a great approach to do science. To be
yeah,
very frank, in fact,
yes,
yeah, as you clearly mentioned, it takes time,
yeah,
because Satish is already into his probably 21st year as an
yes,
independent
yes,
career.
yes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and it's such an important time to also establish your thoughts, and also reputation, and
yes,
so many interesting things which actually come out from the laboratory.
yes,
Uh,
yes,
it also means that, Satish, that students really play a very critical role,
yeah, yeah,
because I've seen that so many of your own students who have done well, they have gone on to various different places. Uh, what has been your experience of mentoring students, and
yeah.
the kind of environment you have built in the lab?
Yes, yes. Because in generally, what happens is, for students, I would say students, when they join IISc, because it's not only my own group, but
Yeah,
department provides them wonderful environment.
yeah.
Institution is such a great institute, like, they get wonderful exposure to the different kinds of the science. But mentoring, like, what I find it sometimes challenging. I don't know how much they really, they enjoy, but when they graduate, they express to me coming back,
Mm,
because the problem is threefold, right? They have to do bit of organic chemistry. The
mm,
research begins with synthesis of material. And sometimes it is very sort of overwhelming for them. Like, they have to go all the way to physical chemistry and the device physics.
device physics.
So
Yes.
that was becomes very hard for them. So they get just of a training, a bit of a organic chemistry, but we don't do like for example, a organic chemist doing a total natural
Mm,
product synthesis.
mm, mm,
So when the student comes to my lab, they have to be better prepared actually.
mm.
Since they should be doing, some spectroscopy. For example, now we are getting some data from JD, from an ultra fast spectroscopy. So they
Yeah.
should understand ultrafast spectroscopy, then that means they need to understand optics,
Yeah, yeah,
optics,
yeah.
right? And that is where I think I found it like some of the students are very willing to take these
Mm,
challenges, but now it's very interesting. So now today, as of now, I have a electrical engineering student working in my laboratory. Can you believe
mm.
that? I'm an organic chemist by trade.
Amazing, amazing.
So I find it that is something very, very exciting
Yeah.
because, and they are happy about it. That means my mentoring is okay with them
Mm,
actually. So I'm able to challenge them. A student coming from electrical engineering background, a student coming from a physics background. I had a student from completely coming from MSc physics from IIT
mm,
Bombay. So he sort of graduated happily. So that means, and I had a very good student, which are organic
or
chemists. We
chemistry.
built the laboratory. I made them to collaborate with between
Mm,
them. They talk with each other, they, help each other, and they build an interdisciplinary laboratory. It is a necessary. For example, every material I make it, I cannot give it to collaborator. They come under pressure, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
we have to preliminary screening of these
Screening.
materials. We have to do it,
Mm,
and I find it. Let's say, for example, band like transport, then hall measurement. I can go to talk with Narayan. I can talk with
mm.
Arindam. I can talk
Yes.
with anybody. So that those things I cannot do it. But that preliminary screening is important for me. And I have to mentor students in a different pace. I have to motivate them why it is important. I think that's again thanks to Fred Woodle, actually. That is the way he trained me. And I'm carrying forward that legacy, I would say.
It also tells that there is sometimes there is a kind of indirect way of picking ideas in terms of way you function. That I totally agree with you. You generally take good ideas which you have already taken in the from your work experience,
Yes.
especially the way you manage people. That's not generally taught, right?
Yeah.
It's also hard to really teach.
Yes.
Building a group,
Yeah.
you have to build a group to know how to build a
So
group.
that's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
nobody will tell you artificially how you'll do it,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
That's something which is quite remarkable.
Yeah.
So, Satish, tell us a little bit about the kind of futuristic ideas. These are all problems.
Ha.
What you're working
Yes.
on is very
Yes.
fascinating. What are the kind of broad questions which you would want to also take forward
Yes,
and look
the
into?
broad picture is basically okay. So as I mentioned, I still believe that fundamental science is the, sort of very critical for any technology.
Mm, true.
Okay, so we have to solve these very, very basic fundamental problems and then push the science. But now I learned so much about these materials. There's so much know-how why this particular class of material I want to work on upon it. We want to take it forward and really, I would say, I won't say I'm like want to realize perhaps like superconductor, but emergent phenomena in these
Mm,
materials. When I say emergent phenomena, unusual properties, that drives me and that fascinates me. Like, for example, how do I really, it's a simple concept, like we are now doping these polymer, right? We are
mm,
doping
mm,
electrochemically, we are doping with chemically, we are forming this large number of polaron and bipolarons, how they condense in a
mm,
one-dimensional semiconductor. And we can that those questions at the moment are very exciting for me. But and then we have also, as a part of this all innovation, we have also a startup in IISc.
wonderful. Mm,
uh, my groups are, some of my group members are driving that one. Perhaps translating research, I don't think so I can drive at that level,
mm,
because those are the questions. Perhaps I can talk a lot more with industry and
mm,
they can translate the research forward. But for me, the bigger picture is this: what fascinates me is solving these puzzles,
mm, mm,
actually how I'm going to really solve these puzzles. Because at the moment, what I find it, actually the bigger picture, I will tell you, in India you need that. At this moment, we as a country, we are prepared now
mm,
to give, to we did sort of more like incremental research.
mm,
We have to
mm,
emerge as a leader now.
mm,
I identify something, a fascinating field, rest of the world is following me.
mm, mm.
Actually, I think that never happens to Indian
In the
science.
sense, you're
it's,
right.
it's very
You're right.
important to that to happen, because it's like a woman World Cup. Women
Yeah,
cricketers are playing the
absolutely.
World
Correct.
Cup and change the world. In science, it's not only me, it's a
Mm,
responsibility of the people at my age group of scientists, mid-age career scientists. They have to bring that eureka moment in a science
mm,
where people get fascinated towards science.
Very
actually.
nice.
That didn't
Yeah.
happen in the country. It
Mm,
just people have done extraordinary well. I think there are
mm,
very good scientists we have produced in generation. But did we really make that game changer moment where
mm.
you invent thing and rest of the world is sort of
It's
following with you?
right.
I think after Raman, these things did not happen,
True.
right?
True.
So we have to really, I think I'm still thinking about very deeply about that one,
Mm,
whether I
mm.
will be able to do in my lifetime or not. But having a dream is it's a good to start actually.
Absolutely worth it. Absolutely
Absolutely,
worth it.
absolutely.
Absolutely worth it.
Yeah,
It's a great actually it's a great thing to look forward to,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because it's also in the service of both the society and also intellectual community.
Yes,
It does not actually dilute any kind of effort, and
yes,
it'll add to the value,
yeah, yeah,
and it's such an important point. And
yeah.
we do have a huge human resource.
No, we must
For sure,
sustain
that is
that.
our greatest strength,
That's
and
what. Yeah.
so
I
many
shouldn't be
interesting.
complaining. I shouldn't be complaining about we are now blessed with funding. We are now blessed with the wonderful institutions. We have now all the equipment in our hand. But like
Yeah,
what stops us thinking about that next level research problem?
research problem.
Right? I
True.
think this is the deeper questions. It's not only me. I think there are wonderful people across the country. There are like fantastic scientists in IISers. These
Yeah,
are wonderful institutions are coming out. And I'm so glad because now we got so many people within the country to talk about it,
talk about, yes,
right?
you're
So
right.
that is the beauty now. So if we now somehow the ecosystem has come to the peak,
Mm,
right?
mm.
We have like so many wonderful faculties in ISER, TIFR, Hyderabad, TIFR, Mumbai, IISc, many institutions, Jawaharlal Nehru Center. I think I can name many. I
Many.
keep on naming that. But with the so many good people around, can we really now push the science next level?
Mm,
I think
mm.
that's a question, that's a responsibility somehow of this generation of scientists has to push forward. Okay, so that is where I feel it. I think I want to join that party more
Party.
rather than like chasing my own dream actually. Right? Yeah,
Wonderful, wonderful.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah, yeah.
it is a excellent a goal to work towards, not only in terms of, let's say, individual development, but also collectively.
Collective,
It takes a lot of people to
collective. I want to just my fellow colleagues within the country. I just
country.
want to work with, collaborate with people, talk with a lot more people. Actually, collectively, can be really big because that is where I think the Indian science that will be a game changer for the country. Actually, as
Mm,
a science, the way how are we thinking about it? Actually, otherwise we've been right, like sort of at the end of the day we celebrate science, we do well, but are we not really now at the stage where we have to really discover things?
discuss. Yeah.
Right? And that has to be, that is something missing in the country. And I don't think so I can do alone that, but I have to just join hand with the people, fellow colleagues, actually, within the country or outside the country, doesn't matter where it is. And then that, I think that is something I'm passionate about it, I would say. Just to summarize my dream and goal,
Dream.
actually. Yeah, yeah,
Wonderful,
yeah,
wonderful. Yeah,
yeah.
a great thing to work towards. So
Mhm.
finally, Satish, give us some kind of overview of your interest, other interests, your
Ah,
recommendations, any form of art or any form of
ah.
any form of non-scientific activities you are involved in.
Non-scientific.
I
Yes,
mean,
that's that
not
is
devoid of science, but something beyond science,
yes,
I
yes.
mean to say.
Beyond the science, you see, like hobbies, I've been started reading a lot because
Mm, mm.
outside the science.
Very nice, very
So like
nice.
this, my for example, I've been now reading this Mahatma Gandhi's my experiment with truth. Actually,
Oh,
like
very nice. Nice, nice, yeah.
so it's a wonderful way the way he navigated life and
Mm,
then how he did come back to country how he changed. It's a very inspiring story
mm,
actually,
mm,
very inspiring. And then I can correlate with my journey in science, right?
mm,
There
mm.
are like you learn the lesson. He's
Exactly. Yeah, that's the lesson. The lesson.
he's a godly figure. I can't
Mm,
really compare like his
mm,
journey, my journey. But however, I can take a little bit,
mm,
some Z's out of it. So those books really now recently fascinated me a lot. And I also like to watch a lot of movies
mm, mm.
actually. So thanks to Netflix, then I don't have to, go to with Bangalore traffic. I don't have to go to
So true. So
you know
true.
the Bangalore. You are a true Bangalorean.
Yeah. I was born and brought up there. Now escaped.
Now you escape. So I think I also like to watch these TV serials in a different part of the world.
Mm.
For example, I've been
Nice.
watching like a lot more TV serials. That gives me a cultural view how people think about life
Mm.
actually. So like we Asians, we think very differently about life. Like for example, I watch TV serials people do in a in a Denmark or in
Mm. Mm.
Sweden. They had like slightly like and then somehow I think like how as a human being how different we are actually,
True.
right? And how we think about the life, because we are such a integrated society. Our social fabric is very very strong in our country.
Mm.
So but there somehow they lead life bit of challenge different way.
Yeah,
So
it's individual centric also
very
in this.
individual centric, and how but they have built great nations by doing
Yeah, yeah,
despite
yeah.
doing that one. So how where things went wrong in our country or where
Mm.
things are going wrong in our country,
Yeah,
somehow I this is the way philosophically I think about it by what watching those people actually. So again Netflix give me the all translation language, there's no
yeah, yeah.
barrier. Like how for example Japanese people thought about it after
Mm. Mm.
World War. It was completely grounded actually. So
Yeah, absolutely.
we see how many Nobel Prize winners they generate, like what kind of science they created. It's a wonderful to see that in such a time, such a short period of time, they rebuild the country entirely, right?
Amazing. Yeah.
Amazing to think to see that. But wait, like where are the main issues in our country? Where we
Mm.
like so like, it comes back at the end of the day. We are scientists. You are a scientist. We both are like at the end of the lab is the our hobby.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It is also the place of the maximum thrill, so to speak, because that's where the real action
That is
happens.
where the real and then but
Absolutely.
these keeps what whenever I get a time actually and spend a lot of time with my children
Yeah,
talking to
yeah, yeah.
them, and then family, we have a big nuclear family again,
Nice. Very
talking with
nice.
them. So this is the way that my maximum time outside the science what I do.
Amazing.
But at, like sometimes like some maybe my family members feel that I think this guy is certainly crazy. At the end of the day, everything he connects to the science. So
Mm.
I think so, but those are hobbies, I would
Yeah.
say. Reading a bit of a literature. I like a lot more this autobiography of people actually.
Mm.
A lot more about their life journey, how it
Very. Yeah.
happened. That is where I got fascinated towards Gandhi's book actually. So this is my generally hobbies, and coming back.
Fabulous, fabulous. On that note, in fact, that's actually one of the motivation behind Pratidwani to also, kind of it's a kind of documentation of intellectual journey of people, kind of a small effort of looking at the basic history about the person who has already been doing research and looking at their worldview and
Yeah,
trying to learn something new out of it.
yeah, yeah,
And a human being's life actually has a lot to offer in
yeah,
terms of in learning, and every individual is very different from the other. In fact,
yeah,
that's one
yeah.
of the main reasons we try to also do this particular thing.
So much to we have so much to offer. That's why we are
Offer,
at
yeah.
the moment we are so much blessed. I think going forward actually in my 10-20% of time, I also really want to help like underprivileged children. That is
Mm,
something I want to just start. I've been
beautiful.
thinking and getting interface like in Bangalore itself, we've been talking with like some of the NGOs. It is
Mm,
just a very very early stage of my sort of experience in that towards that, but I think that's a nation building exercise.
absolutely,
All of us
absolutely.
now see, I got it now, everything in life what I can give back to society. I think that's a question every individual should
Industry
ask,
ask.
or should ask.
Absolutely,
Then we
absolutely.
should start sharing with people, right? Like that like as a scientist we have our life is we have very limited expectations in life. We
Mm,
don't have
mm.
like a very fanfare and big life. We have got some books and table and chair is enough for us. So but now I have opportunity to contribute a lot more.
Nice,
And I find it start from a children, right, where there is a
beautiful.
large number of underprivileged children where we can support and we can build wonderful nation going
Nice.
forward actually. So that is one thing I've been thinking very deeply about it, and I started from my birthday onwards, like
Mm,
going
mm,
in Rajaji Nagar. There is one NGO I talk,
mm,
I go there and talk with children. You see there is a lot of things to do there actually. So basically that is where I think I want to spend a lot more time going
mm.
forward. I think if God has been kind with me, I think I want to contribute that area as well. So that, and then perhaps that will become my hobby actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Satish, I wish you all the best for this
Thank you.
very, very noble venture, both in terms of research, which I also think is a very noble venture, and also all the thoughts what you shared with us so seemingly and also so openly. And it also inspires a lot of people, hopefully,
Yeah.
to take up science and
Yes.
do well as they progress.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for your
Thank you
time.
very much. Thank you very much. And you are doing wonderful job. And I hopefully we'll catch up in Bangalore when you come here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Certainly. Please do
Same with
drop
you.
and do come to the SSU. Actually, we will catch up again a lot more. Yeah.
Definitely,
Thank
definitely.
you. Thank you.
This
Thank you.
is Pratidwani, where we try to humanize science, this time with the one and the only Satish Patil. Thank you,
Thank you.
Satish.
Thank you.